Let's call our meeting to order and get going here because we have a lot we really need to cover tonight. So I think first on our agenda is, well, we have a roll call. So we've got Richard and Dick and Dan and Matt and David. So that's 4 out of 5. We're not really counting Matt as a member of the committee, although he's our secretary. Did Nate join us tonight? I don't see him on.
Yeah, Nate's here. And
yeah, I'm here.
I was hoping to touch on something before we get too far ahead. I presented Nate's volunteer recommendation for the committee to the board at our last meeting. Unfortunately, due to a clerical error on my part, I didn't include your application, and so they continued the review of your application to the meeting on March 2nd.
Okay.
They weren't against it. Nothing was negative. It was solely on my mishap. So
Okay.
Next agenda, I'm throwing in your application with our recommendation, and then your approval should be good to go.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I meant to go make the meeting. I just didn't. So curious what happened. So thanks for the update.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any visitors, guests, public at large? Do we have Rocco or Adrian or any others?
Yeah, this is Adrian. I'm here. Just excited to kind of sit in and see what's going on with these meetings and be helpful any way that I can. Let you guys know what CUSP is working on in the area. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. And in the meantime, I just look forward to listening to what you guys are all working on right now.
All right. Well, maybe in the public comments section, Adrian, you could just give us a quick rundown on what CUSP is doing.
Sorry, where did you want me to put that?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, where did you say you wanted me to put that?
It's just in the persons present not on the agenda.
Okay, will do.
Item 3. Does anybody have an objection to that? Okay. All right, well, let's kick it off with our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag,
You have a flag anywhere?
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all.
I think we got it in
I
there.
just find this so peculiar on Zoom to do the pledge.
Yeah.
Okay, so start off here, item 2, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Or does anybody have anything that they feel like we need to adjust here?
No.
Okay. So we will proceed with this agenda. All right, now item 3, Adrian, could you give us a quick rundown on what CUSP is doing?
Yeah, so all right, just making sure I'm not on mute. So we had SWIFT, so the Southwestern Inmate Fire Team out there last year doing some work on Thomas Trail and Dewey Mountain. This year, we've had me and then another contractor that I'm working with. We've been out on Thomas Trail. We got about 1.25 acres completed out there. We're doing a lop and scatter. So there is a lot of slash on the ground right now. However, the condition of the trees out there, I mean, they're all pretty dry. So once we get the slash on the ground, it is breaking down quickly and it's sitting down quickly. So I think it's going to turn out looking really nice. The ground's going to end up looking really good, I think, once we get a couple snowstorms covering up all that slash. Hoping to get back out there and do another at least 2.5 acres. Just kind of coming down to timing with me, timing with the contractor that I'm working with, and conditions. So that's ongoing. Also right now, we are working on putting together a Fema Grant. So what we're hoping to do is be able to get some FEMA funding to fund 2 days of chipping in Green Mountain Falls. And I've also been talking, I've been emailing Dick Bratton, David Douglas, and Rocco about, and also Jesse Stroop about the possibility of retrofitting that garage that's at the base of the Wallace Reserve Trailhead. So what we would like to do is take some steps to harden that home to fire, things like, new non-flammable siding, possibly new roof, vegetation management, putting down rocks around 5 feet around the actual structure to make sure there's no flammable material within 5 feet of the structure, armoring around trees that are nearby, and then putting up signs that are kind of educational. This is why we're doing this to the structure. This is what it does. This is its purpose. This is what it costs. This is how you can do it, difficulty level type things like that. So those are all things that we're trying to work into our FEMA grant right now. So far, we don't have a exact budget because we're still working on some things, mainly for the home hardening and structure hardening aspect of that garage. But it would come down to that we would need a 5% match from the town, which is very reasonable. And I believe with that FEMA grant, it can be soft match, so in-kind volunteer time. And other than that, I think that's, also we are waiting on 2 grant requests. We have a furworm grant in for, let me just find it here. I guess we'll do the SFA one because this one's up first. We should be hearing by June, I believe, on this SFA grant. And I believe what we have in here is 40 acres for Green Mountain Falls. Yeah, 40 acres. And we also have a furworm grant open that we should be hearing maybe as early as April. And that would be 41 acres in Green Mountain Falls. So we have a few grants that we're kind of got some moving pieces waiting on. Colorado Springs Utilities will hopefully be able to pitch into some more money for Green Mountain Falls. So hopefully big things happening in Green Mountain Falls soon. So sorry to take so long, kind of rambling.
That's okay.
But we got a lot going on right now. So it's very exciting.
That's a great list of programs that y'all are working on our behalf, and we really appreciate it, Adrian.
Well, we appreciate all that you guys are doing too. So it's been great working in Green Mountain Falls, and we're received really well. So it's been a pleasure.
I like that. I like the plan though of using the grant funds to do some teaching of the residents in Green Mountain Falls through opening up that building.
Yeah, I think that can be a big benefit. A lot of times what we see in areas we're working in is the biggest obstacle isn't that people don't have the desire to do mitigation work. It's just a lot of times they don't know where to start, how to start. It basically just comes down to information. They need information. So stuff like this, I think, is really beneficial to the community.
I second that. I really like that idea of actually making an example of what it looks like when it's done, because that's a big thing that I run into with people is that they think they don't want to cut down any trees because they're afraid how it'll look, and then most of the time they're usually pretty pleasantly surprised that it looks really good. So
absolutely. And
yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, if you can get that done, then it's a place that people in Green Mountain Falls can go look at and physically see.
Mm-hmm.
That's sometimes a problem. You tell people what they need to do, and they look at you with a blank stare. So if you can show them what they need to do, that's really helpful.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits of it, it's at the base of Wallace Reserve, which we've done some work up there. So a lot of that forest has already been managed. But there are a few trees that are really close to that garage, which I know a lot of people that we talk to, a big problem that they have with it is they don't want to cut down this tree that's really close to their house for sentimental reasons, aesthetic reasons, whatever. They don't want to cut this tree down. So this site is kind of a good opportunity, I think, to showcase that you don't need to cut down every single tree as long as you treat these trees like they're part of your structure. So this tree that's 6 feet away from your house, treat that like that's a 6-foot extension of your house and armor around that the same way you would around your house. So I think it's a really good opportunity to show different ways that you can harden homes without just cutting everything down, pouring concrete around everything. You know, they're kind of ebb and flow that you can do with it. So I think it'll be really successful if we're able to get this funding and get it all done.
Okay. Thanks for doing all that on our behalf, Adrian.
I have a couple questions. I don't want to take up too much of the committee's time, but Adrian, that Thomas Trail work, is that actually work done on the trail, strengthening that trail as like a fire break?
So what we're doing is we are working from the trail down slope to private properties on Hondo. So it's just down slope of the trail, but we're doing basically anything that has mistletoe in it is going out, which in some of those areas it's every single tree, so it's been kind of difficult. But we're taking out all the mistletoe for you know, forest health improvement reasons, along with fire mitigation reasons.
Okay, and then the Colorado Springs Utilities, is Chief Myers kicking in some boots on the ground to do this work, or are they just kicking in funding?
We haven't had any actual boots on the ground assistance from them so far. I'm not sure if that's going to be in the plans going forward. That's been our executive director at CUSP, John Geardes, has been in contact with Eric Howell, who is the forester at Colorado Springs Utilities. So I'm not entirely sure what that's looking like for this upcoming year. But I do believe we can rely on some funds. I don't want to promise anything, obviously, until we have anything signed. But as far as boots on the ground work goes, I'm not sure.
Well, I know Chief Myers probably would be interested in having some of his wildland team work on, you know, saw skills, things like that. He might be interested in putting some boots on the ground to help out.
You know, that's a really good idea, and I hadn't considered that. I think I'm going to be doing, well, all of the CUSP employees are going to be doing our pack test with them, I think, coming up soon. So I might be seeing him in the next couple of months. I might bring that up. That's a really good idea.
No, Chief Myers is always very helpful.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
All right. Let's move on then to item number 4, which is approval of meeting minutes from the January 28th meeting. Anyone have any or anything to the minutes as presented?
The only issue I had, first of all, Matt, thank you for taking really good notes. But it did say that I was against Zoom. I was just against the term Zoom and just using the term virtual meeting in our
I understood that. I
bylaws.
wrote it in my notes. If I didn't convey that in the minutes, my apologies.
No apologies necessary. Actually, I was quite impressed with how thorough your notes were, but I did run across that, and it just made me think that I was objecting to Zoom, and I'm fine with Zoom. I just, didn't want that proprietary name in our bylaws.
And I totally understood. When I edited the bylaws, I referenced your stuff, virtual meeting software instead of Zoom. So I'll correct that in the minutes.
Yeah, just say the term Zoom and not Zoom.
Other changes or corrections? Okay, and so Matt, with those changes, can we approve those minutes with the changes?
Absolutely.
All right. Motion to approve.
I move to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So committee bylaws. We talked about that, made some changes. Has everybody reviewed the changes that we made in the bylaws?
Yeah.
Any corrections, additions, deletions?
David?
Yes.
So I just wanted to touch on just one thing real quick. I came to the process late in the drafting of this committee's bylaws. And so in reading through what had been previously drafted, a lot of it had been copy and pasted from other committees' bylaws. And so if there are specifics that we need to include for us that weren't in what we currently have, please let me know. But they seem pretty standard and boilerplate across all of our committees in Green Mountain Falls.
No objections to the current bylaws as written. Motion to approve our bylaws.
So moved.
And all in favor?
Is anybody having trouble hearing David?
No, I don't have any trouble.
No?
Are you having trouble hearing me, Matt?
Oh, there we are. Okay, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear anything at all. Apologies.
Yeah, I didn't know David was speaking.
Yeah, I asked if, so we had a motion to approve the bylaws. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Adopted. All right. Item 6. I really wanted to talk about the enforcement of municipal code, because everybody keeps bringing that up. Is, you know, when we talk about what the fire committee should be doing, we refer almost instantly to the nuisance trees and what's being done, and the enforcement of the municipal code. When I was there last month, Rocco took me and showed me there's a section that comes down, across down the mountain. I wish Rocco were on to remind me of the name of the. There's apparently a city-owned drainage area that comes down the mountain. Are you familiar with that, Dick? What I'm talking about?
Where? Where?
It's apparently a drainage area that is primarily city property.
Well, we got a lot of those around town.
But it comes down across Hondo, and then down sort of towards Belvedere.
Are you thinking up where the ice flow is, or
No.
somewhere else?
No, it's not where the ice flow is. I'm trying to
Further
remember.
There's that area where that neighborhood trail is. Does it go down that area?
Yeah, that could be it too. And that's not really that trail that's there is kind of a trail that everybody made,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure what the drainage problem would be there.
I want to say that drainage is privately owned property, but I'm
pretty
not 100%.
sure that is.
Well, there's
right.
some privately owned property that butts up to this drainage area. And it's a couple that owns the land. They never did develop it or build a house on it. And they live in Woodland Park. And he is, I think he's a retired attorney. That
Sure sounds like where that trail is.
Yeah.
There is some property there that's not developed, but I can't think of what other drainage would be.
That just about three houses down south from Dick's house is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Cuts right across there.
Isn't that where that trail comes down?
Mm-hmm.
Rocco, took me for a drive along there and showed me all of the dead trees that are in that area and really need to be cut. So that would be a potential for us to have a mitigation effort that is a fairly obvious need. So
Is it actually town property, do you know?
there is a portion of it that's town property, and there's a portion of it that's private property.
Yeah, I think the town property, if you went in there and took care of the town property first, then the private ownership of the other property would be a lot easier to enforce. If you try to tell the landowner to cut down all the dead trees on his property without addressing the city problem, I think you'd have a bigger fight on your hands.
Yeah. Well, I think it would have to be a coordinated effort without a doubt.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, depending on how much work needs to be done, you could always, you know, if we get a crew in there to work on the town property that abuts the private land, you can always contact the private landowner and ask them if they would like us to take out their dead trees, and not, you know, ask them to take them out.
Hold on just a minute. Let me give you a little background on this. Now I know what you're talking about. Back when Chris Randina was doing our town clerk work, she took on as a special project getting rid of dead and diseased trees, because we were going through a period of high infestation, and the disease was spreading. So she helped write this ordinance, which we copied a lot of it from City of Woodland Park. They were having a similar problem. The philosophy that went into that was, we will try to first have the town do demonstration projects in the town-owned and the town right-of-way to show the neighbors what could be done, and to take the lead and encourage them to follow. She then personally recruited private landowners to reduce the fuel loading around their houses, specifically targeting the diseased trees. And quite a lot of progress was made between Iona and Hondo. Some very successful projects around the edge, but she had no success with one private landowner in between there that refused to do anything. A lot of discussion went on, feeling that the ordinance as written has some teeth in it. It says that if you have a reluctant landowner, the town will have the authority to go in and take out the trees and then charge the landowner, even with a lien on their property, to get the work done. We never reached that level. The program kind of faded out when Chris left the office. But the ordinance is still there for us to use. But I think what we have to do is consider the fact the town wanted to go a step at a time. First, take care of the diseased trees on town property to demonstrate. Second, to ask for voluntary compliance with the disease ordinance. And then if we had some problem areas, we would still have the ordinance to go in there and do the work and then charge the landowner. So that's where we're at. So this particular ordinance is not on the top of our list of things to do right now. But it's nice to know we've got it. The reason we put it on the agenda was so all you members of the Fire Mitigation Committee could be familiar with it, that we have this tool to use and we have some teeth in it if we need them.
Well, Dick, my question would be, at what point, if we say this is not one of our top priorities, at what point, though, do we get active in a program of remediation, either whether it's town property or private property, to remove those nuisance trees?
I think we should get started this next summer. So we've got some work to do to get that set up.
And so it seems to me that we need to have a subcommittee established that would really take that on as a project.
Wow, great minds run the same channel. I have the same exact thought. We need a subcommittee for reducing fuel loading.
That would be specifically around the town ordinance, wouldn't you say?
Well, the ordinance is a tool, but it's
Yeah.
not the only thing. In order to get voluntary compliance from your citizens in a coordinated effort with the town, we really need to have procedures, and we need to have a public education program first, with brochures and literature, material from the state forest programs. They have a lot of really good information on how to create zones. So there's a multitude of material out there. We have to organize an education campaign to kick that off. And that's something we could do this winter.
Okay, Dick, in forming a subcommittee, how are they going to go about mitigation of the forest, these areas you want to get done that the city owns? Is the city going to pay for that, or is there going to be a volunteer basis, or how are you going to go about it?
Well, the city should be responsible for reducing fuel loading on city-owned land. I mean, to
Yeah,
me,
the ordinance actually says they are responsible,
right, exactly.
but I think they're going to balk, but we can
Well,
proceed with that idea and hopefully they can come up with some money to
the
do
secret
it.
is to work with fine organizations like CUSP to leverage grants and help the city so it doesn't become a big burden, financial burden on the city.
Yeah,
Well, when the budget for 21 was passed, we were able to get some money in the budget that was designated to be matching funds for a CUSP grant that Michelle was working on.
Right.
So potential, I mean, there is money in the budget,
Right.
and it
Okay.
could potentially be used for this particular item.
Do you know how much, I'm sorry to jump in, do you know how much was in the budget for that?
$4,000 went into the annual budget, which
Oh,
doesn't
it was
sound
more
like
than that,
much.
Dick. It was like 16,000.
No, I don't recall that much. That would be nice, but
I looked at the budget, but I just don't recall it being there that much.
the $4,000 came because our Parks, Recs, and Trails Committee recommended that $4,000 be set aside in the 2021 budget for fire mitigation. That was
Okay.
before we had a fire mitigation committee.
Matt, is that easily referenced somewhere?
Yeah, it's in the minutes.
No, I mean, the budget.
Yeah, so I can pull it up if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
It's on the town website. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question. This may be jumping ahead to the next item a little bit, but is there any responsibility from CSU or the telecom to do anything about trees that are interfering with their equipment or their lines and stuff?
That was
CSU,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
I was just going to say that is what I wanted to cover in the next agenda item. So there it is right there, Dick.
Yeah,
16,975.
975.
Thank you.
I knew it was
That's
more
quite
than
a bit.
4,000.
Oh, that's great.
Well, there's some money there anyway.
That's a start. That's a start.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
And you already heard a whole list of projects that Aaron's bringing to the table.
Hey man, we already got the money spent.
Well,
So I'm
what
pleased.
we-
I think it's a good start to get things going.
So, I don't want to burden the committee necessarily with driving every single project that we come up with. We need to have subcommittees for people to really get engaged with us on these projects. So it would be helpful if we could begin identifying and recruiting people that would head up subcommittees that really tackle the specific priorities that we establish as a committee.
Very good, David. Now, if you look at our committee membership, we've got all kinds of expertise. We have all kinds of busy people, but some of our members may have a peculiar or a specific interest in one area of our goals. So if there's anybody right there sitting now who would like to start out on the subcommittee for reducing ground fuels, that would be fine. Anybody wants to stand up and be counted?
My
Hey,
thought,
Dick.
my thought would be that let's just say that I say, okay, well, I'll take that and I'll be responsible. I would go out and find somebody in the community that would be the head of the subcommittee and would be tasked with the responsibility of directing that or developing that program to bring back to the Fire Mitigation Committee for review and approval.
There are pros and cons to that option. My personal feeling is that we need somebody on our existing committee to be the chairman of the subcommittee.
Okay.
To have a good interface and continuity. Then we can reach out to the community and pick anybody we want. We're not restricted by the town policies or anything. We can form our own subcommittees. That's in the latest ordinance on the committees. So
There's really only one rule I just want everybody to be aware of is that subcommittees can't have a quorum present of members from the main committee. Otherwise,
Matt, did you say they cannot?
they cannot have a quorum of members. Then it would be a public meeting of this committee every time. So,
okay. Can't have three.
right. So
Committee
at
members.
maximum, we can have 2 of any member of this committee to serve on a subcommittee.
That's correct. You're right on.
Dick, I would not mind helping out with that for sure. I think maybe, because I don't know a lot of the people that are on the other committees, and honestly, I don't know a lot of the folks in town who would be interested in doing this. But can you have a person from, say, this committee and have another person from the Trails Committee to work together to form that subcommittee? Because I know the Trails Committee they've got a pretty good network established for people that help with all the trail work. Like if I were to head this subcommittee, could I reach out or have somebody from another committee be on that subcommittee?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
absolutely. And I just want to point out too, I think we might be jumping ahead in agenda items.
Yeah, I think we need to kind of back off a little bit and see how many subcommittees we're going to actually have. What are we going to be working on?
Yep.
Well, the
That's
number
good.
one,
Rather than just all of a sudden say, let's do this committee. If we're not careful, we're going to end up down the road and have 30 committees. So
Yep.
we need to kind of identify actually what we're going to have a committee of.
I think that's a good point, Rich.
that really relates to our agenda item
9,
where-
8 and 9.
And 10.
Yeah.
8. When we get to 8, we may see some subcommittees come out of that too. To me, the number one subcommittee is to get cranking on notification and evacuation. To me, that's our most important and number one priority. And I think that will probably come out during discussion. That's going to take some good leadership and some immediate action. 'cause we're still hanging out.
Yep.
Right now, we can't get everybody out of town.
Well, and that was one of the things that when I talked to the CSU, not CSU, the Colorado State Forestry ranger, he said that the biggest problem that we have in Green Mountain Falls is an evacuation plan.
Hey, was that Dave Root?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, he's on board. That's wonderful. He's a great resource.
Yeah,
So-
he's-
Just for my education, the El Paso County Emergency Management doesn't already have a evacuation plan for this town?
No,
No?
no.
Nope.
Okay. Well, that would be a good group to get involved in that.
A great deficiency.
Do they reference evacuation in their emergency operations plan?
You have to
El Paso
understand,
counties?
Yeah.
El Paso County Emergency has
Oh,
the
they
whole
do.
county to take care of. And their focus is on the eastern plains and the city of Colorado Springs. We're up here as the poor cousins on the west side. We had very little in the El Paso County Emergency Action Plan until we did our last comp plan. And then we got on the contractor some experts in fire mitigation and fire planning. And they wrote a specific appendix to our comp plan. That's how we got something ahead, because El Paso County was not being very helpful.
My thought process with the emergency operations plan is maybe instead of starting from nothing, if they do reference evacuation in the EOP, the bits and bobs that we like of what they've done, we can pull out and reference for the subcommittee. Believe it or not, my master's thesis focused on emergency management, and I wrote a continuity of operations plan for the city of Brush, and so I have a big background in this kind of stuff.
I like your optimism, but we thoroughly studied the El Paso County plan, and it was highly deficient on evacuation.
Okay.
Hardly said anything about Green Mountain Falls.
Well, then we
That's
start
why-
from nothing.
That's why we jumped forward and said, okay, they're not doing it for us. We'll just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, put it in the comp plan, and we did.
Cool.
We got a pretty good appendix to the comp plan. Now we're in a point where we got to get something done about the recommendations that are in the comp plan.
What is the comp plan, Dick?
What?
The comprehensive plan.
Oh, the comprehensive, okay.
Yeah, for this town.
Rich, you don't have any contacts in the El Paso County OEM?
I might.
Yeah.
See who's still there. They've kind of circled around quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'll see who's left.
Well, I mean, I could always reach out to Brenda Wazalewski and maybe see if she has a contact in the OEM that maybe she
Yeah,
could bend
Brenda
questions to.
Brenda probably has a contact. I think the OEM manager down there now, and I can't come up with a name off the top of my head, but I know him. And the one I had the biggest contact with, he moved on to DOT. So I don't know. I'd have to research it a little bit and see who's left.
And Dick, are you suggesting that maybe the town of Green Mountain Falls come up with their own plan to maybe present to the OEM, El Paso County OEM, say, hey, this is what we got. How can this coincide and mesh with your overall plan? Because if we're evacuating the town of Green Mountain Falls, El Paso County OEM and probably Teller County OEM is going to be involved.
The actual evacuation will involve many agencies and is coordinated from a central point. So
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
the execution of the plan is multi-jurisdictional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
much of it falls back on law enforcement, and up here that ends up being a state patrol, and more than times than not, Woodland Park Police, Teller County Sheriff gets in here faster than El Paso County does.
Right.
Yep.
And they're the first to start evacuation.
Yeah, I mean, the actual logistics of getting people out is, just a part of the plan. The notification systems, and that's where I'm kind of driving at with is mainly the notification systems. What notification systems does El Paso County OEM already have in place? What notification systems does possibly Teller County have in place?
Pretty much reverse 911 is what they're using.
And that's it, just reverse 911.
Pretty much in public news processes. That's pretty much it.
Because I know some of the counties that I work with, they have an amalgamation of different ways to notify people, whether it be reverse 911, code red. Actually, one of the most successful ones that I've heard of in Douglas County, for example, is they use Twitter. Twitter works well. Social media, for example, works pretty well.
Yeah, they do use social media down there. Unfortunately, up here you have a lot of people that just don't use social media that often.
Yeah.
Particularly the elderly.
Yeah, that's where the Siren thing came in.
Yeah, and I've looked into that a little bit, and you're gonna have to use an omnidirectional siren. The one at the firehouse doesn't work anymore, and even when it did work, it doesn't reach the whole town. I mean, we could set it off and half the town never hear it. Particularly if you're at town hall or up where I live, you can't hear that siren. In order to have a siren that could reach the whole town, it's probably going to have to be omnidirectional with a audible distance of about a mile. And it's going to have to be at a high point somewhere where we don't have mountains blocking it all the time.
Yeah. Are we jumping ahead on the agenda? I don't mean to do that.
Yeah, I'm afraid we are.
Well, I mean,
that was kind of part of the notification and alert type thing.
right. And I mean, to me, these are elements of the notification and evacuation plan. I mean,
I would think so too.
so it's not that we're jumping ahead. It's just, there's so many moving parts here that we need to sort of begin to get a structure around tackling. And that's, so the public alert siren is a part of the notification and evacuation plan.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty dang big project.
Yeah.
Well,
Particularly, I looked into the alert siren some, and I have a background in acoustics and shit, and to get one that's going to be that powerful is going to be somewhat expensive. You can go out and buy one for $7,000, and it's not going to do a thing for you because the range of it's about 1,000 feet. Get out to where you're getting a good mile range in an omnidirectional siren. You're probably real close to $23,000 to $30,000, no problem.
You take a check?
Sure.
Yeah.
But and it has to be in an area that's fairly high in the town so it can reach the town. Unfortunately, if you put it down at town hall, most of the town's not going to hear it. Dick will probably hear it, and I'll probably hear it, but anybody up Belvedere won't. Anybody to the far end behind Red Mountain won't. So it's going to take some planning and some engineering just to get a siren in place.
Would it work well if it was up on the water tower?
Probably. It depends how far back. It needs to be out on the edge of Red Mountain would be ideal.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much they would like to have a siren up at their new art project up there, but while they're working on it.
An unintended cost of installation of sirens is a remote activation device.
You have to have remote activation. There's a whole lot that goes into the siren other than just the siren, unless you want to run up there and push a button, which is actually what the firehouses was. You ran inside and pushed a button. But You'd have to have remote activation from the town hall and maybe from the firehouse or whatever, but mainly the town hall.
If the committee is interested, I went through this process in Brush for tornado sirens, omnidirectional tornado sirens, and I'm close
Pretty
friends
much the
with
same thing.
the chief of police out there has already done a boatload of research, and so I could ask him to share what he's already done with you guys.
Yeah, I did a little bit on it, not much, but it gets expensive in a hurry if you're going to have something that technically works well.
So,
And there are FEMA grants for that type of thing.
Well, and going back to what I said before, we need an amalgam of notification systems. And, we may not be able to notify every single person in town with a siren, but hopefully we would reach some people that maybe weren't reached through social media or 911 or Code Red.
With proper position and the right warning system, a siren would almost reach everybody in town, because town, you basically look at it and it's about 1.5 mile radius at, a mile. And there is a siren that'll do that and pretty much reach everybody, but it's going to have to be looked at and engineered so it reaches as many people as possible.
Well, I know that, the city of Green Mountain Falls isn't, rolling in money, but I would say that, this is definitely a priority since this is one of the highest fire dangers in the nation.
That it is.
I would say that it would definitely be a priority, especially with our demographic, who live in this town that might not be plugged in with social media, people here who have spotty cell phone coverage, things like that.
That's a major problem up here, spotty cell phone coverage with reverse 911. You may or may not get notified. And we've seen that in the past.
Well, I mean, it may be something that we put on our wish list for, say, hey, this is an expensive item, but
Well, it's like Manitou did. They had to bring them in for the floods, and they put up sirens down there, and that's just for flood alert.
Well, but we want something that we want to plug. We want to be able to activate very quickly, because if we do have one rip up the pass, we've all seen them run. And
I think you're going to have a couple places to be able to activate it from, probably from Town Hall for sure, because it's their system. And then put another activation point at the fire department so somebody can access it there.
Yeah. I mean, if we have a wildland fire that's threatening Green Mountain Falls, there's going to be somebody at the fire station. So
it depends. At first start, there isn't.
Well, yeah.
Later on in progression, there might be.
Yeah.
But at first start, everybody's on the fire, and then you got nobody at the station.
What are you talking about? Steve, he lives there.
Yeah, he goes out the minute the fire alarm goes off. So then you end up with, nobody at the station in the early process. That's what I'm saying. If you can access it from the station, which is fine, somebody else can go up there and do it. But the only thing we'd worry about with the town is somebody being at town hall.
guys, what we're talking about though here is we cannot spend our time in this meeting to develop this plan. I mean, these are all the detail. I mean, everything y'all brought up are great points, but they need to be combined into a plan that has a cost. It has it's an overall plan. The public alert siren is one element of that plan, and that needs to be developed by a subcommittee that works independently outside of this meeting, so that they can bring and recommend a comprehensive plan on notification and evacuation for us as a committee to say, yes, this is what we want to recommend to our Board of Trustees.
And I think that's what I mentioned earlier. We just need to decide probably pretty soon how many subcommittees are going to have and what are they for.
Right.
That's what we need to focus on right now. I don't think we can get a committee together right now or solve the committees without just first establishing what committees we're going to have.
Exactly. I agree. Um, so let's move on then and sort of talk through some of these other things. I mean, it sounds like everybody's saying number one priority for this committee should be the notification and evacuation plan.
Here.
Yes,
Okay.
I would
So
agree.
let's sort of, the reason that I put Todd Dixon's report on the agenda, item 7, was because in our last meeting, Todd had delivered a full report of all of the findings he had made around town of interfering with power lines and various things. Did anybody have a chance to look at that to see what
I did
Todd
look
had?
at it. I did.
I thought he did a great job. I'm sorry he's not on the call tonight to discuss this more, because when Todd took this on back in our very first committee meeting in December, he said, I'll volunteer to go around town and take pictures and identify the problem areas so that we can begin to discuss a plan for remediating that, which to me is another, I mean, I think somebody said earlier, what about CSU? How do we get CSU involved? These are CSU issues, are they not?
They are. CSU has a line trimming operation. And once they see lines in an area that need trim, they come in and trim them. They will not do anything with low voltage lines. They're not theirs. So they won't bother with those. Only the power lines will they bother with. They will not do service drops. Those are the property owners. So if you want anybody, I noticed some of those pictures had service drops in them. That's strictly on the property owner to have those cleared.
So we really need somebody who will take the responsibility of being our liaison with CSU to remediate some of these things that we identified, like Todd has done. And I'm wondering if maybe Todd's willing to take on something like that.
Well, all he has to do is call CSU Electric Division and ask them who's doing their tree trimming this year and see if they can come up to Green Mountain Falls. CSU contracts that out every year. And if you say it's a fire mitigation concern, I'm sure they'll come up and do it. But like I say, the low voltage lines, they won't do. They're not theirs. We've tried to get some of those trimmed out in the past. And they really don't present a huge fire hazard. There's nothing there that's going to set a fire. It's the power lines that are the problem. And CSU will not do service lines.
Well, what is let me ask this. How does this fit into the overall priority list of, these power lines as it relates to
I would say lower down the priority list, but it still needs to be in the priority list.
Well, and just remember too what their parameters are for mitigating trees around their power lines. Usually it's correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but it's like 10 feet, which doesn't mitigate trees that will fall into power lines that are blown down.
It actually depends on the voltage of the line as to how far they take it back. A real high voltage line is 10 feet. So that's, that's way up there, the high towers and stuff. That's a 10-foot clearance. Some of the lower voltage stuff, I believe, is only 3 to 6 feet. So it won't prevent a tree from falling into power lines.
Right.
It's just clearing the power lines to keep the tree from causing that line to go to ground. It's not for fire mitigation or anything else. It's just to protect the system.
Right. So I would say that mitigating the power lines, although is a priority, it doesn't need to be super high on our list as far as things that we need to do or can do.
Things that we can get done and done pretty easily. But I mean, it still needs to be on the list, but I don't think We have more important things to get to right now, I believe.
Okay. In that being the case, should we move on to the comprehensive plan, table 2 on page 93 of the comprehensive plan? Because I think there are a list of items that were identified and can be a point of discussion of our priority.
David, I just
Yeah,
had a
can
quick
you bring-
comment before we get
Go ahead.
started.
Yeah.
Catching up with Angie, and I believe in a conversation with you, in the code, the BOT requests an annual plan from each committee. So what I was thinking, and since we're discussing the priorities for what we'd like to work on, I discussed with Angie the possibility of just making the annual plan as simple as a bulleted list or letter. If we'd like to take these priorities and include those in the annual plan to share with the board at their next meeting, would that be acceptable?
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
I don't see why not.
Okay. And then with that in mind too, the mayor is requesting to have all members attend the Board of Trustees meeting on 3/2 at 7 o'clock, just for collaboration on priorities. This is originally planned to be rather long. I talked Angie down to 15 to 20 minutes because I'm trying to be mindful of everybody's time. It's not mandatory, so I don't want people to feel like they have to be there, but just to represent the committee in discussion with the board about our annual plan and priorities, I think it would be great to have at least 1 or 2 of us there at the meeting.
That's, you said March 2nd. It's a trustee meeting
Yes, sir.
at Town Hall?
It'll Zoom meeting.
It'll be a Zoom.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if you can send the link, I'll definitely attend.
When I put the packet together sometime next week, I will share that with everybody.
Okay.
So can we have a look at, go ahead. Can we have a look at the, this particular reference?
It's on my phone.
There we go.
Page 93.
Yep. So is this the starting point for us deciding our priorities?
It's one tool to be considered. It's a good one because it went through a very extensive planning by our comp planner, who was a fire mitigation expert. So I think it's highly reliable. You may not agree with all of them, but that's why we're sitting here looking at the list. Just to get started, I would suggest that we put priority 1 on the next to the last item.
Which is,
this,
Enhance public education information and outreach safety. And in there, you'll see is notification and evacuation plan. To me, there's nothing else on the list that can compete with that. That should be number 1.
yeah, I think that's number 1. We already identified that as identification and evacuation.
notification and evacuation I've got as number 1.
And
Yeah.
number two, I'd recommend the second listed item, enhance public education, information and outreach. We need to get that program going to develop wildfire public education, brochures, town meetings, communication from experts, get the citizens involved in helping us develop the plan.
And there's a ton of information out there as far as public notifications,
Exactly.
how to do your property. It's there. It's not something we have to
Right.
develop. There's just a ton of it out there. You can go on the internet and look up fire mitigation. There's probably a million things there.
Right.
Well, you could probably just go up to Woodland Park to the state forest office and they'd probably give you all the brochures you'd ever want. And we'd give everybody
Yeah.
2 of them.
That's right.
They definitely will.
And they're willing to come to speak. And CUSP will come to speak. And we've got expertise right on our own committee to educate people on the threat. By the way, I've got a copy in my hand of a video called Fire in Paradise.
Good video. You see how not to do it.
Well, you definitely can see the consequences of it.
Yeah,
it's a bad
deal.
Let me ask just a quick count here. How many members of the committee have seen this video?
I've seen it.
Rich? Okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
actually, I believe the one you're talking about, Dick, is the one that was on Netflix. I think there's another one out there that's either Nova or National Geographic that's about the same fire, the Paradise Fire.
Yeah,
It's also a good
National
documentary.
Geographic.
My copy
Also-
is PBS, and it's excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah, ideally, that would not be a bad thing to show at a public meeting or at town council or anybody else. It shows the urgency and what will happen. And it's going to happen up here. It's just a matter of when.
That's why I bought a copy, Rich.
Yeah, it's,
Sits on my
it's going
desk.
to happen someday.
It sits on my desk just to remind me we've got work to do.
Okay, so
Okay.
Who else on the committee has seen a video on the fire in Paradise? Rich has seen it. I've seen it.
Dan, you've seen it, haven't you?
yes. I was in California that year too.
Oh, okay.
I was in
David?
Nevada.
David, have you seen it?
no, I haven't seen it yet, Dick.
I will send you an email with the link. So you
I
can-
actually, I have it, Rocco sent it to me.
Good.
So what are we saying then as far as our second priority?
So this is number 2 is public information.
That's
So
what
let's
I
go
would-
by, let's use the A3, A6, that designation on the list as far as how to identify our priorities. So are we saying that number 1 priority is what?
One.
A,
Notification and evacuation.
Yeah, I thought it was A8. Am I missing it?
A8. Okay, so that's A8 is number 1. Now, Dick, you said A7 is number 2.
I've gotten lost in your numbering system.
Well, it's right there in
it's in the
under,
second column.
There are 8 items listed on the list.
So
Okay.
Refer to them in their order.
Isn't A2 and A8 kind of the same?
I don't know where you're at. We picked
Okay,
number
well,
1 and we picked number 2. We should be working on number 3 now.
yeah,
I'm
A2
just trying to figure out on looking at page 93, table 2, under the column that says project. Each one of those starts with a designation. The first one is E1. Second one is
Okay.
A2.
That's where you're getting better.
yeah.
Ta-da.
So what I'm trying to do is take this list and prioritize it, but that's the only designation I know how to use.
Yeah, it looks like A2 and A8 are the same.
Well,
And that's what we have as number 2, public education.
so Alpha 8 is the actual notification and evacuation plan, working with the county emergency management and state patrol. So Alpha 8 needs to be priority number 1.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then, go ahead.
it looks like Alpha 7, I guess it is, yeah. Alpha 7 and Alpha 2 are kind of the same.
Well, Alpha 7 seems to refer to roadside fire danger warning signs and informational and directional road signs along major roadways.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be pulled right into public education?
Well, I think it kind of
Why would
straddles
you split those two?
It kind of straddles the line, in my opinion, especially if you're talking about directional road signs. When I see directional road signs, I think of evacuational directional road signs, trying to establish one-way traffic where you can, that kind of stuff. So that kind of goes with the evacuation plan, but then also the roadside fire danger, fire danger high, extreme. That's that does fall into the category of public education, and less in the evacuation plan. So it kind of straddles it.
Yeah, so it seems like some of these could be combined if we looked at them closely.
Well,
Absolutely, they could.
When I went and looked at this, that's what I thought was. I'd read it and go, well, they're sort of all. They're not separate. They're all sort of.
Yeah, it looks like somebody sat down and tried to make as many as they could rather than bullet it a little closer.
Yeah.
Look, there's an advantage to having them listed 8 separate items, because then you can prioritize those 8 different actions. You start combining them, you lose the priorities, and you get.
Yeah, but if we're developing a subcommittee, a couple of these can be combined, because you're going to end up with a subcommittee with not a whole lot to do.
That's fine. That's fine.
Well, I'm a big fan of the KISS method too. Keep it simple.
So am I.
Me too.
And honestly, I feel like you could probably lump all of this stuff that we're talking about into 3 categories: mitigation, education, and evacuation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what we probably should do, is just put it at mitigation, evacuation, and public information, and combine them into those 3.
It all falls under mitigation, but when I say mitigation, I mean actually fuels mitigation.
Yeah.
I love the way you summarize that.
I do too. I think obviously A8 is notification evacuation. Public information, 2 of those could be combined maybe if I just have to sit down and read this a little closer, but some of those could be combined, and then the 3rd committee would be mitigation. So if you just had those 3 subcommittees, and we could massage this a little bit and put it all where it should belong, then those 3 subcommittees could work on that.
I like that approach.
And I would prioritize it as evacuation plan priority number 1, public education priority number 2, fuels mitigation priority number 3.
Yeah, and I think that's idea. That's what I wrote down anyway.
And if I can just jump in really quickly, I'm noticing, for a lot of these things we're talking about, you guys are talking about developing brochures and things like that. Through my work with CUSP and working with the Forest Service and working with the Action Implementation Mitigation Program, it's a nationwide program. I have all kinds of really good information. So if you guys need any information or any sort of pamphlets, brochure, templates, anything like that, please reach out to me. There's no need to recreate the wheel if we already have something. So I just want to make sure.
I'm sure everything is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've seen it all. But
okay, so we now have kind of simplified this thing. Thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah.
So I think the next step is the subcommittee, assigning the responsibility for really tackling these 3 areas. So that's where we get down to the work. Who's gonna lead the effort in each of these 3 areas?
David, if you don't mind, before we jump into the subcommittee discussion, I had a quick question for the committee.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So the priorities listed in order: number 1, notification and evacuation; number 2, public info; number 3, fuels mitigation throughout the town. I was thinking in reporting the annual plan and priorities to the board that I could put together a simple letter, and then David, if you want, slap your name on it and have you review it, and then submit it for review at the 3-2 meeting.
Yep,
Great.
that'd be perfect.
Thank you.
Do we have any volunteers?
For leading subcommittees?
Yes.
Well, I'm not an expert in any one of these fields. I would say that for the evacuation, whoever has any experience or contacts in emergency management, and any experience in consequence management would probably be the best person to do that. As far as the fuels mitigation, priority number 3, I feel like, I might be able to lead that just because of the contacts that I have and my potential ability to maybe round up folks to actually do the work. I'm not good at getting money though.
Okay. Well, I think
I thought I was, but I never was.
If I was good at getting money, I wouldn't be a firefighter.
That's a fact.
So are you saying that you'll take the mitigation?
Yeah, I think that maybe I can contribute there, unless somebody else feels like they can contribute more. I don't know if you know what my job is. I'm a regional battalion chief for the DFPC, the Division of Fire Prevention and Control for the state. And really, what that makes me is I meet a lot of people. That's basically it. Unfortunately, this isn't my region. My region is Douglas County, Jefferson County, Denver, Arapahoe County, Elbert County, and Lincoln County. So I have a lot of contacts in those counties, not as much here, but I can always talk to Brenda Wazalewski. She has a module now in Colorado Springs that can potentially assist with mitigation work, things like that. So I might be able to get some boots on the ground. I might even be able to get some of our modules from District 1 up north to come down and do work. But I might be able to get DFPC folks to actually do some mitigation work.
Great
training
opportunity.
I've set it up before. They do it all the time. During the winter months, they help with MIT projects, and DFPC is growing as well. So we're getting more modules and more boots on the ground all the time, and all those folks they can help out, and usually at no cost. So.
Okay. Well, Dan, what I heard you say is a lot of sort of the actual doing part of the work. I think what we need to do is have a plan of what it is we want to tackle in terms of mitigation. So, Dan, you will take that and that responsibility?
Yeah, and that's where I would lean on my my counterparts in the Forest Service, whether that be the State Forest Service or the feds, and have them actually.
That would encompass things like the existing municipal ordinance as it relates to nuisance trees. That would be incorporated into your plan.
Yeah. Well, I would assume that it would start on Green Mountain Falls owned property, going on those parcels and actually looking at what needs to be done, coming up with individual plans. I'd have to really wrap my head around it to really to try to think of the overall picture and like prioritize which which projects would need to happen first. What would be the timeline for actually getting getting the projects done? How many projects do we have? How many projects can we accomplish? This calendar year versus in this decade.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Okay, we're good. So you will take that.
Sure. I guess I need to ask what this committee would need from that subcommittee, and I'm assuming it would be, like I just said, coming to us with plans, what the projects would entail, things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so who will take the notification evacuation planning subcommittee?
I guess I can do that.
Yay! Yay!
All right.
Rich, I can't promise that I'll attend a ton of subcommittee meetings because I'm pretty committed and boarded out. But I'm happy to provide additional information in regards to sirens and other research that I did in Brush on emergency management.
Well, if you're on the fuels mitigation subcommittee, we probably won't be having a lot of meetings. Because like I said, I don't really know that many people that will be willing to volunteer for it. What I'll start doing is reaching out to folks like Mike Myers with CSU and the Forest Service, and also with our internal.
Yeah, and I'll reach out to the county and.
Dan, do you know Rocco?
I know a Rocco. I know Rocco Snart.
No, Rocco Blasi is who I'm talking about.
I've met Rocco. I don't know him, but I've met him.
Well, Rocco would be an excellent person for you to get involved in this particular mitigation. I think Rocco is very passionate about mitigation in Green Mountain Falls.
Please send me Rocco's contact information, and I will definitely reach out to him. And then also, with Adrian and Cusp, I know you guys have already been doing work.
Nate, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
We'd really like for you to get involved here. We hadn't called on you much here tonight, but where do you think you would have an interest in and feel like you have could plug in on some of these subcommittees?
I was just thinking, I feel like I'm hesitant to take the lead on a subcommittee, but I feel like I can be useful in terms of kind of map making or, drone flights or, things like that, that may be beneficial to any or all the committees, but I certainly could help maybe with, I was just trying to think of strategies to, as far as public information and education, with social media and things like that. But I don't know, just kind of trying to get the word out. I don't have, connections in this realm of, fire, the profession of the fire folks and everything. So,
but haven't you been involved actively in mitigation on your own property?
No, I haven't really done much, done that at all, really.
Okay.
I mean,
mapping and drone flights. Mapping and drone flights would be very helpful, I think, on the mitigation side, wouldn't it?
Yes, actually, Nate, if you, well, let me ask you a question. Would you be able to assist me in the first step, and that is identifying where all the Green Mountain Falls owned property is?
Yes. Yeah, well, I can definitely do that.
If you can do that, that would be a great first step. That way I can start, actually, ground truthing some of this property and start looking at it and actually starting to get an idea of the amount of labor that would be needed. So that would be my first step, is I need to go see the property. So
right.
if you can do that, man, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can start working.
Yeah, I hate to tell you, but if you're going to be drone flights, that would be very helpful with evacuation also.
Yes.
Yeah,
it gives us, there's not a good map that exists of the town of Green Mountain Falls.
Right. And
they just don't exist.
Yeah. And I've talked to town staff also about doing just an overall town flight, just to get a a new base map, or I should say new orthophotography, which I could essentially create myself, and then you know, putting the parcel layer on top of that, basically, so that there's high resolution imagery along with that parcel layer. I mean, we're not talking about survey grade parcel layer probably, but at least it gives a starting point for just like you said, identifying properties and acreages and, you know,
Yeah, and
things
if
like
you
that.
can show roads on that with the names of the roads,
Yeah. And
that
some
would
of that
be
I
quite
can,
helpful, because like I say, there is not a good map of anywhere up here. And if you try to use your GPS or your phone to find a place, it just doesn't work.
yeah.
A lot
when
of
you-
time the UPS driver's lost.
When you make that map, can you share it with FedEx and UPS?
Yeah, really. Well,
Yeah,
one
because
thing
they use their phones.
yeah. One thing I've learned is the parcel layer from El Paso County is not very, there's a lot of discrepancies between addressing, obviously, as you allude to, between what the county says exists and what the street signs say and such. So, but yeah, I could
Believe it or
definitely
not,
start
the fire
working on that.
department uses hand-drawn maps with
Really?
addresses. Yeah, we don't have a good set of maps at all.
It
Yeah.
sounds like your expertise is very much needed and required to assist in
Yeah, and
all three of these priorities.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking, as I could hopefully help out with across the board, you know, and maybe not, you know, be a subcommittee chair necessarily, but use my
resource.
skill set to kind of help each one, you know, do different specific tasks. But I think overall mapping is just something that, you know, the town wants, the town needs, and that, you know, that's kind of the base of everything really is.
Yeah, I say we put Nate on the payroll.
Okay.
But, you know, David and Nate, you guys bring up a good point, and that we should probably emphasize, and that is that we shouldn't silo ourselves. You know, just because I'm on the fire mitigation subcommittee doesn't mean I can't assist with, you know, something in the evacuation subcommittee. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If you wanted to go out one day and look at trees and stuff, I can do that on any given day. And fire mitigation, is it my understanding that the town now has a sign making
Yes.
machine?
Yes.
Okay, that probably just took care of our evacuation signs, because they can make those.
Yeah.
And it may take care of a few other items.
And I just want to plant a seed, not necessarily that it's going to be viable or not, but this is something that I've preached to all my emergency managers in my region. And that's that, you know, evacuation plans, the term evacuation doesn't necessarily mean getting out of Green Mountain Falls and to the highway to Colorado Springs or wherever.
No.
Sometimes if you can find places within your community that you can actually shelter in place, if you will, that's something that I think we should always try to remember. If we can think of places where people can actually go to and they can survive a fire front, you know, whether, like you saw in the Paradise video, Dick, you know, they went to the school and they went to the large concrete pads, places like that where people could, you know, essentially just kind of lay down in a last-ditch effort, you know, because these fires can move at varying speeds. You know, the Paradise fire was a good example of a fire front that moved so quickly that, you know, part of the reason 80-something people died in that community was because they could not get out. And it was just not possible. You can have all the good evacuation plans in place that you want, but some things are actually impossible. And getting that many people out of that town was impossible. And something that we need to consider is, as part of the evacuation plan, is also sheltering in place. And if we have places like public parks, things that can be mitigated to a point where they're actually what we call in the fire world safety zones, that's something that we need to keep in the back of our mind. Just
We have
that seed.
a couple up here, but not enough for the full population. Also,
Right.
we only have a couple directions out of this whole pass. I mean, if you're going downhill and driving into a fire, that's no good. If you're going uphill driving into a fire, that's no good. So there has to be some determination where you go.
Yeah,
And if
and
you stay,
a weekend in the summer, we may not be able to have all the people in this town be able to get actually out of the town. But if they can go to places like parks or places like safety zones, that have plenty of signage saying, hey, this is a wildland fire safety zone, almost like saying, hey, this is a holding capacity. You're not parking cars here. You're actually going to be there on foot, that type of stuff. That falls into the public education realm as well. But like I said, it's just something to remember that the evacuation plan doesn't necessarily mean getting everybody out of the town. You want to get as many people out as you can, but sometimes you got to get people in that's just safety zones, places where they'll survive.
That's a good point. I mean, Paradise actually practiced their evacuations before all that went out, and they still weren't able to evacuate properly. So those things do move really quickly. I'm actually looking through the Ute Pass CWPP to see if there are any designated safety zones. Are any of you aware if there are designated safety zones within Green Mountain Falls as of right now?
I'm not aware.
not currently.
Okay.
There are a couple available, probably Town Hall region and the new fire station region would be about it on this end of town. The only other that I could really look at that would probably work for a few people would be down at the school. And it's pretty well mitigated.
And this conversation is good for that subcommittee to come up with. But like I said, I'm just wanting to plant that seed.
My home, but you can't come here.
I agree with what you said too, Dan, that just because we don't want to be siloed. Everybody should draw on each other's strengths, but we do need to have a person who has the primary responsibility of one of our priorities.
Absolutely, I agree.
So it's not to eliminate others from helping. It's just to say you're driving this. This is yours.
Yep, gotcha.
So, and then Nate obviously will cut across all of the committees. Rich, you've taken notification and evacuation, and we have education remaining. And I'm happy to be part of the education responsibility, unless somebody really has a strong desire for that.
I don't, but I can help you. I'm a public information officer for a Type 3 team, or I was. I'm not anymore.
No big deal.
Type 3. Yeah, it's no big deal.
So Dick, where is
it's
it
called
you want
ideas.
Dick, where is it you wanted to plug in there with some leadership on one of these committees?
I plan to divide my time amongst all the committees and jump in where hands are needed.
Okay, all right. Adrian, I'm probably going to need your help as well, if you don't mind being a resource for us on education.
Yeah, any way that I can help, whether it's public outreach or actual on the ground mitigation work, whatever you guys need, feel free to ask. I'll help out any way I can.
Okay, but I'll take the lead on the education piece.
Okay.
And Adrian, please, Adrian and Nate, please send me your contact information.
Will do.
I will, Nate, what is your email? I tell you what, here would be the best thing. Matt, do you have everybody's contact information?
I was just about to chime in. Yes, I do.
All right. So you've got Adrian's, you've got Nate's, you've got all the Fire Mitigation Committee members.
Let me double check on Adrian's real
email.
quick, but I have everybody else's. Adrian, if you want, would you mind maybe throwing the email in the chat if that's okay, or you could?
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
And then Matt, would you mind sending out an email that just says, hey, here's everybody's contact information?
That's no problem at all.
Thank you. Okay, so I believe, from my perspective, we have accomplished down through number 9, and that leaves us at number 10. Other topics for discussion. You know, I believe we've covered A and C as part of our discussion and will be included as components of the evacuation and notification plan, as well as some education, right? Is there, I guess what I'm asking is, does anyone feel that we need to have more discussion on 10, A, B, and C?
That's weird.
There it is.
I take silence as a no.
Just real quick on the chipper is,
Well,
I mean, the town, what's that? I must have missed something.
Adrian, will you address the chipper and why that sort of wound up on our agenda? Because you had recommended to us that we might be able to get a $500 grant that could pay for a chipper. But there's been a lot of discussion, and I don't know that that's going to work out.
Yeah. So what I was suggesting, and it was just kind of I saw it, just figured I'd throw it out and see what you guys thought. But it was just a little, I think it was a $500 grant from State Farm and NFPA for the National Preparedness Day, which we'd used in the past for just doing a chipping day that we, just park the chipper somewhere. Residents can come bring their slash to the chipper. We chip it on site, make a big old chip pile that can then be either taken to the dump, wastewater treatment center, or people can pick it up for mulch in their gardens. So we've used that grant to pay for chipping days like that in the past. I think you caught me unprepared. I don't have that information up. I'm not sure when that grant expires. I can find out if you guys still wanted to run for that. But I think in the FEMA grant that we're applying for, we're going to try to get enough funds to do 2 days of dragging around the chipper. So I don't know if you would need or want that 3rd day. So that's kind of up to you guys.
Okay, I think the expiration for that $500 grant is coming up within the next week. The one that you were telling me about.
Let me see if I can find it here.
Speaking of grants, are we relying on getting all of our funding for our projects from the city, or?
I think we have to probably fend for ourselves to some extent. As we said, the city has set aside in the budget about $17,000.
Okay.
But I think the main thing that we need to do is develop our plans, figure out what resources will be required, whether it's manpower or funding. And then we have to talk about where is that funding going to come from? Is it going to be grants, or is it recommendations to Green Mountain Falls that says, here are the things that need to be done. Here's how much it costs. We need for you to put it in the budget.
Okay.
So I think that comes out of the work that we're going to do on these priorities.
Okay. So it could be a mixture.
Yeah. And I really think that we hadn't talked about it, but I really think we need somebody who can take the lead in terms of running down and keeping track of grant opportunities and, getting those filed timely.
You read my mind.
And I'm wondering if Ann Esch, who's not with us tonight, might be willing to do that. She seems to be pretty on top of things.
Well, I mean, her absence automatically volunteers her for something.
Is she in that class tonight that I sent out, or did that start
know.
already? I don't know if she's in that or not yet.
Well, I know she signed up for something, Rich.
Yeah, it was a class I sent the information out on.
I'll get with Ann and see what her interest level is in helping with the grant.
And I'll hop in really quickly. I mean, it's good for you guys to have someone else looking at grants, obviously, too. I mean, the more eyes, the better. But just so you're all aware, when grants come up that CUSP and COCO are applying for, Green Mountain Falls is normally one of our first communities that we think of, just so you guys are aware. So we normally do plan a lot of stuff for Green Mountain Falls in our grants or our grant applications as well.
Sounds like you and Michelle are really working hard on our behalf, and we appreciate that.
If you're not familiar with CUSP and the State Forest Service, man, they work hard on all of our behalfs all the time.
All right. Any further discussion on item 10? Okay. Other topics for discussion that we have not covered.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have a short discussion on when we plan to meet in March.
Thinking that we had set the third Wednesday of every month as our standing meeting.
We have, unfortunately, the Parks, Recs, and Trails also wants to meet on the third Wednesday, but they are leaning toward meeting at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay.
Now that burdens our town clerk with having 2 meetings in one day. I wonder if we could slip down to the 4th Wednesday of the month. Does that fit with everybody's calendar?
That's fine with me.
I'll show you what's on the calendar. Absolutely nothing.
That would definitely be
What
appreciated from my perspective.
Yeah, what I would like to do is set, whether it's third or fourth, I don't care, but I don't want to keep moving it around. So
Well,
if we want to
that's-
say it's fourth
I-
Wednesday, I'm fine with that, but we want to keep it that way.
Tried to find a good landing spot.
Everybody okay with fourth Wednesday?
I believe so.
Wednesday's fine with me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Matt, would you mind actually like sending out like a calendar invite?
Sure, I can do that.
So we have it, yeah, so we all have it on our calendar. That would be great.
Yeah, you send it out and then we just accept it and it pops into the calendar. That's the only way I can manage.
I'm the exact same way. Yeah, I could definitely do that. And I'll do it like as a standard meeting going for months. So we just auto-populate your calendars.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And then David, did you want me to get in contact with Ann about the meeting change, or would you like to do that?
I will reach out to Ann in a separate email just to her and kind of see if I can maybe have a telephone conversation with her, and I'll tell her about it.
Okay.
Was that third Wednesday, was that stipulated in the bylaws somewhere or something that may need to be changed?
Yeah, that was, I thought we had, yeah, I think it is part of the bylaws.
Yeah. And also, just real quick, Matt, I noticed on the top of this agenda, I don't know if it matters terribly, but I think you had a date in January on it. You probably just forgot to update. I don't know if it matters or not, but
yeah.
No, that definitely matters. The little things matter. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
That's a SRSA violation, isn't it?
Oh,
Shame,
dude,
shame.
You can't say it out loud, man. Come on.
Well, but that is a good point, Nate. Thanks for bringing it up. Because yeah, we got to make sure that if people want to attend, they attend on the right month.
Yep. I'll make a note to revise this as well.
And I don't want to preload and basically say that I'm going to be absent or anything. But just so you know, when it comes fire season, there may be some meetings that I may have to miss, especially depending on what I'm doing on the fire. If I'm working as an agency administrator or something, I'll probably be able to attend the meetings. But if I'm working actually operational, there might be some meetings I have to miss.
Okay.
Oh, you think it's going to be busy?
I think it's going to be busy for the rest of our. I think it's going to be busy for the rest of our lifetimes.
Not me. I think I'm going to retire and give it all up.
Yeah, you keep saying that.
I like this year off.
I've
I
heard
didn't go
that
out
from
this
the.
year.
I've heard that from the first day I met you.
I didn't go out this year
Yeah.
just because of COVID, but I'm getting old, dude. It's too damn hard.
I just have a
Oh,
quick question for the committee regarding the bylaws that Nate brought up. Would you like me to edit them to reflect the fourth Wednesday and to present them
Yes.
at our next meeting?
Yes, please. Any other topics that we need to discuss?
Just an overall comment. We thought very hard who to go out and recruit for this committee. We looked at a lot of people with great experience and background. And I am absolutely delighted with the people who stepped forward for this committee. We have a really, really good committee. And we had a great meeting tonight. So I want to thank everybody for stepping forward and sharing the workload and getting this thing going. I am absolutely delighted. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Dick, for
Thank
those
you, Dick.
comments.
Thanks, Dick. That's nice.
Thank you, Dick.
I feel the same way, and I have a lot of gratitude to all of you for, giving your time to Green Mountain Falls and getting this kicked off and working the way it should.
Let's save the real pats on the back though for whenever we get stuff done.
That's right.
Yeah. This could
Yeah.
take a while.
Okay. Well, let's get started on our assignment and be ready to report out on the next meeting as to what you've got accomplished. All right.
Okey-doke.
Then
Thanks, sir.
if there's nothing else, I think we can adjourn.
Did we adjourn on time?
I hope so.
Holy-
We were 1 minute late. Not
It's
like I was
almost
counting or
past my-
anything.
It's almost past my bedtime.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, Adrian, for attending, and look forward to continuing working with you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
for attending.
Thank you. And thanks, Matt, for keeping all the cats wrangled.
I'll try my best. I'll keep it going.
All
Hope
right.
to see you guys
Thanks,
succeed.
everyone.
So have a
See you
great night,
later.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.